CIRF report number 472. Welcome. It is time for an Aries full moon. Getting ready for that courageous energy. We have a lot more to talk about, and there's some tricky energy out there, and I know you know that already, but we're going to go through in detail where it's coming from, and more importantly, what to do about it. All right, so there's your overview. We're going to be going through this playbook, and if you want the playbook, go to the show notes down below over to Telegram. You can download this picture for yourself and use it for free. Okay, so let's get started. Oh man, it jumped all the way down. Okay, so I'm happy to report Philly Gardens, Linda Wozniak, and John Doe all tied for first place for the Best Comment Award. And that makes me super happy because I want to congratulate everybody. I want to go through all the comments, and I do read all the comments, but special shout out to you three because it's important. Comments are important. It's important that we have a community here, which we do. Right? And it's a great community, great, supportive, open-minded community. So here we go. Going through the astrology, we go from big to small. So big scale, we started a new eclipse cycle on September 21st. And now, because that was a new moon also in Virgo, now we have in that cycle, we have the first full moon in Aries. And then we'll be going new moon, full moon, new moon. You know, we have all these known, all the dates known. And our next eclipse cycle is Aquarius. All right, here's October. We're in the brand new beginnings of October, other than that one day that we had last CIRF report. So closing out September, entering basically our first full week in October. There's your full moon right here, Aries, Sun in Libra. And then right at the full moon, you have Mercury entering into Scorpio. So the overlap between Aries, passion, and Scorpio, lots of passion. So passion and the energy to push through and take names, you know, all that stuff. All those are congruent, and you'll have the mental aptitude to do it and also the underlying fire yang to do it. There's also a square here. This is Mercury square Pluto, and there again, that's very correlated with Mercury going into Scorpio. We'll talk about all of that. That's about it for this week. But there's a lot happening. So the overall energy here is just an increasing crescendo of yang. Things like determination. We talked about passion, maybe impulsivity, but a yang, a motivated courage, right? And why do we have that? Well, we have Mercury going into Scorpio first. That's going to be, can't really tell, but first, and then the full moon is next, full moon in Aries. Then we have Mercury square Pluto, and we have Venus sextile Jupiter. So that expansiveness is also warranted here. But still, we haven't really talked about all that we need to talk about, because one of the most important hidden things that kind of runs the background all week significantly is this mirage happening down here on the cusp of Pisces and Aries, Saturn and Neptune conjunction. Yes, boy, so we've been talking about this for weeks and months. Saturn now retrograde back into Pisces, Neptune in retrograde, but still hanging on to Aries. Neptune and the Pisces energy is on both sides of this, because Saturn in Pisces, but Neptune not in Pisces, but rules Pisces. So you have a very Piscean energy here, and so it's sort of a mirage of who I am and where I am, the world around me. And so this energy is very mirage. It's very dreamy. It's very surreal. it's easy to question. I mean, hopefully we're questioning, right? Like, I guess you'll find out when you go try to drink some of this water here that maybe this isn't real. So those questions are in the back of the mind in this conjunction. But more importantly, we're going to have several alignments that are, I don't know, instigating or pumping this up or correlated with it. And one of those is expansive Jupiter at 22 degrees of Cancer, trine down to our conjunction. So we're going to talk about this in the next first. But let's back up because I forgot about the big to small. So first we go Sun in Libra. It's about justice. It's about what's fair, as seen by the Libra energy, not objective truth. It's what's perceived. And then we need to get it back into balance. The Libra energy wants balance, wants justice, urge for those things and aesthetics and art and harmony, piece together, relationship, all those things. And so that's Sun. That's the biggest energy in the sky, followed by the Moon. Moon is waxing gibbous and will be in a, we'll go past our mirage and hit the full moon in mid-Aries. So an expanding moon, expanding emotions, feeling more and more energized, more and more yangy, motivated, courage. This is just for the moon phase, right? So illuminated, stronger and stronger, bigger and bigger as we go until the full moon. Then the opposite happens. Okay, so now we get into this mirage because it's not like the most dominant energy. There are two slow planets, have been hanging out together for a long time. And one is in Pisces, one is in Aries, but it does affect how you feel, and that kind of the construct of what you're basing your experiences off of is this mirage, in my opinion. So it's blurring. So we're going to end up talking about the trine built by Jupiter, but first, let's just figure out more about this conjunction. It's the blurring of boundaries between reality and illusion, challenges in balancing structure and spirituality, right? Because in Neptune and Saturn is the structure. Pisces and Neptune is the spirituality. There's a confrontation between traditional values and innovative ideals, opportunities for transcending limitations, because that's what imagination does, is more possibilities, what's possible, until you get locked into assuming that this is real. Or maybe not real, but like you forget that it might not be real. You forget about the questions and the curiosity. And this is what the mind says, it's real. Whatever you think is happening here, it's real, and when it's not. So you want to keep your curiosity up and continue to ask questions. So imagine a tightrope walker navigating between two worlds. Or imagine the shimmering mirage in the desert, blurring the lines between fantasy and reality. Basically, this conjunction has us feeling like we're suspended between worlds, yearning for a sense of stability, structure, knowing what's real, what's not real, sense of belonging. There's a oneness here because it's twofold. You've got Neptune, not in its homeland of Pisces, but it rules that energy and oneness is part of that Neptune and Pisces energy. And of course, you've got Saturn in Pisces. So lots of oneness in this mirage sort of energy, grappling with the weight of responsibility is in there, and inspired to dream beyond the confines of the ordinary. Okay, so now we're on Friday the 3rd of October, and Jupiter trine the mirage, let's just call it the mirage, is the conjunction down here on the cusp. Um, Now that energy is getting stronger, so it's blending and expanding. Jupiter is expanding. Jupiter is in Cancer, so there's a security, vulnerability. There's a nurturing energy in there, emotional energy, caring, and all that's expanding. The trine is positive, harmonious, easy. That's the biggest. Easy energy between these two. So it's almost like a expansion of the mirage. It's even more dominant. And that's why it's important to talk about this point of the mini grand trine. By the way, what I didn't mention, you guys already know this because we've been talking about it for so long, is the mini grand trine includes Pluto and Uranus. Yes, they're further out planets, so much more subtle energies behind the scenes, but it's changing and transforming this mirage all the while. Changing and transforming the world, which makes this mirage even more imminent or acute or right there in your face. But this trine with Jupiter is a supportive flow between structure, intuition, inspiration, dreams, that which you care about, heightened sensitivity, certainly for empathy, compassion is in there. 2 water signs are in trines, so it's a water trine. About a 4 degree orb right now. About 5 degrees and change. So getting stronger throughout the week, and that expansive feel, what does that sound like? Sounds like an expanding illumination of the moon, right? So, which is what the moon's doing. So this synergizes, and it's already starting to feel this expansiveness. This trine here specifically more on the emotional side with some fire of Neptune in there. You don't have to imagine, but just realize, since you're I can only speak for myself, feeling confused about the way that I view the world. Certainly going through social media, it's a landmine of not knowing what's true and what's not true. And it's only getting worse because of this, feeling confused about the inner experiences and the mirage around me, yet also feeling, this is important, feeling cradled in the arms of a wise, caring, and compassionate universe. That's what this trine is. So, yeah, stumbling through not knowing what's real and what's fake, but yet feeling trusting, feeling supported. That's this trine as well. Enveloped in a cocoon of safety, belonging, and unconditional acceptance. And also the ability to dream big. That's the Neptune and Pisces energy of this mini grand trine as everything transforms and changes. All right, Saturday the 4th. This is where we have Mercury is now touching our or in conjunct over to the mirage. And this is when it goes exact to Saturn. It's an in conjunct with late stage Mercury in Libra. In conjunct is an adjustment, its forces change. So great, more change. We already have enough change with Pluto and Uranus. Now we have an in conjunct in our mind. So mind, communication, travel, short-term travels, Mercury, and mental challenges abound, difficulty expressing thoughts and feelings in all this change. Wanting to know. Mercury wants to know, thinks it wants to know, and so asks a lot more questions now about the mirage, striving for balance between logic and intuition, indecisiveness due to conflicting priorities. So this is a tightrope type of image, a tightrope walker balancing reason and emotion. We have the mental diplomat navigating a complex political landscape as more and more mirages are thrown at us. Okay, so now update. This is just prior to our full moon. The moon, just prior to the full moon, is transiting the mirage. So this mirage becomes very emotional, right? Heightened emotions. We have an expanding moon trine to expansive Jupiter. And so lots of water, lots of an intuitive force underneath everything, highly emotional, but feeling very expansive. This is when this like goes acute. That chart that I showed with yang energy kind of ramping up. This is almost like a blow off top chart on like a stock chart where it's going sky high because the synergy of the expansiveness is through the roof. Even stronger yearning to see through the mirage or confusion, or maybe emotionally, much more emotionally aware that everything's tricky underneath and changing. And then we get into the full moon in Aries. But first, on Monday the 6th, we have Mercury going into Scorpio first. Where is Mercury? Right here. So right now, this is at 10:47 p.m. That's the time of the full moon. So this chart's a little bit later. So you can see Mercury is at 0 degrees 42 minutes by 10:47 p.m. And Mercury will go into Scorpio at 11:40 a.m. And then almost immediately then Mercury makes that inconjunct to Neptune at 5:53 p.m. And that's that's a whole different mind associated with this inconjunct, but in conjunction or mirage alignment on the cusp. But so now let's talk about the full moon. This is at 10:47 p.m. Central Time. Obviously, we have some sort of like that Aries determination and passion and confidence. There's an intensity, emotional intensity and passion. All those increase monumentally. And don't forget about that expansiveness of this trine. It's still, what about 4 degrees orb on Saturn, but a lot of expansiveness, maximum emotional expansiveness in the fire sign of Aries because of the full moon. This is a warrior standing tall, ready for battle. It's a ram charging forward, unfreaking stoppable. If you want to think about a volcano erupting, that would also be a good image. But at a full moon, remember, this is a good time not to be fighting everything, although you're certainly allowed to do that with the Aries full moon. I mean, you're allowed to do that because of your free will. But this full moon is a great time to sacrifice things or give things up, and things that you're not willing to or no longer willing to fight for. That would be one. Like, what are you still maybe complaining about, but yet not doing anything about? You could look at those and see, well, maybe I should put those either go for it or stop thinking I have to, and then just eliminate those. So you could go through that, or you could go by giving up maybe some limiting beliefs. Self-doubt is a great way to handle this Aries full moon energy. Maybe procrastination would be a good thing for you, or maybe a fear of change. Anything that keeps you from courageously pushing out that which is something that you want to do, right? Give that up at the full moon. Sacrifice if you're willing to. And then, as we are kind of hung over from the Aries full moon energy, then Mercury quietly starts a square. Well, this is when it goes exact over to Pluto. Pluto in Aquarius in a retrograde, part of our mini grand trine. But this is sort of tricky as well. So you have Mercury in our thoughts, deep in the waters of Scorpio, deep in the emotions of it all, and maybe obsessions and passions, maybe a hint of vindictiveness. You'll hear it in the voice, and you'll hear it how, listen to yourself talking, because you might hear yourself pitching yourself as a victim. And this is, a lot different. This is what differentiates Libra and Scorpio, is that before, any complaints from Mercury in communication would be about maybe some injustices or so out of balance. But now it's almost like you're going to hear, you're not even going to use the word victim, but the way that you complain about it is a more bitterness. It's a bitterness when it goes victim mode and it wants to get back. It's a more of a vindictive thing rather than just shoring up justice. Deep, probing communication. When Mercury squares Pluto, we are looking at a pressure for knowing what psychology is running through the events that you see, the mystery of it all, the emotional intensity. Communication can be very sharp, intense, and even manipulative in some cases, especially with Pluto ruling Scorpio, where Mercury is. But we also want to include the Aquariusness of it all, transformative shifts in collective thinking. And we're going to see radical changes in the systems when Pluto transits Aquarius, which, by the way, the next CIRF report, you're going to see Pluto in a station and direct. So we'll just be progressing more through, stomping through Aquarius. But anyway, this square obsession with truth and power will have communication conflicts. There's a mental intensity. The mind with Mercury may feel overwhelmed or consumed by deep, penetrating thoughts and ideas, but it can lead to transformative breakthroughs and but also mental exhaustion. Tension between individual and collective mentalities. And for sure, you got to consider a transformation through crisis with this energy. And then lastly, Wednesday, on a note of real positive energy, is Venus sextile Jupiter. Goes exact at 6:40 a.m. Wednesday, the 8th of October. When Venus forms a sextile to Jupiter, the energy is harmonious and supportive. It's full of growth, because sextile represents growth, especially in the areas of love, creativity, emotional fulfillment, togetherness. Love expressed through acts of service is indicated by Venus in Virgo. Appreciation for beauty and simplicity, the mundane. And Jupiter represents in Cancer the emotional abundance and nurturing energy. And intuition is high. Empathy will guide decision making. So together with this sextile, you'll see a growth in relationships, expansion of emotional and financial opportunities, an increase in creative expression, opportunities for healing, and that generosity that is proposed by wise Jupiter, Cancer. Okay, and so no wonder, based on all that expansive and just expansive energy, no wonder we get hexagram 43 to sum up the influence. Well, what we do these coins for, these I-Ching readings, is we want the summary of it all. So we have a sun in Libra, a moon, a waxing gibbous moon generally, and a full moon. So expansiveness, we've got that Jupiter aspect, we've got the mirage, we've got a lot of that Aries energy, Kung Pao. So we get hexagram 43 with change lines 5 and 6. So this carries the energy of decisive action and the need to confront obstacles with clarity and determination. It speaks to moments when inner resolve is required to cut through difficulties and stand firm in one's truth. And then we have change lines 5 and 6. The energies intensify, highlighting a mix of challenge and opportunity. Line 5 evokes feelings of cautious confidence, as it suggests the importance of standing firm, yet remaining mindful of timing and support. Thoughts of strategy and discernment arise, urging one to address opposition with both strength and grace. Okay, cool. Line 6 then brings a sense of finality where emotions of resolution or even exhaustion may surface as the struggle comes to a close. Oh, that is a mouthful. Shall we? Let's go sum everything up. So we're just on the top of our playbook. Again, if you would like to download this, go to Telegram, the show notes below, go to the link, and you'll get this picture for free, and you can use it. It's called the Playbook 470, CIRF number 472. All right, we covered all of these pictures, so let's summarize it all. This week brings a dynamic push-pull between cooperation and self-assertion. The sun in Libra encourages harmony and balance, while the fiery full moon in Aries ignites confidence and individual passion. As Mercury enters Scorpio near the full moon, themes of deep transformation and emotional release are amplified. Mercury's square to Pluto intensifies power dynamics, control, and opportunities for profound transformative change. It's fitting that I-Ching 43 emerged as the week's guiding energy, signifying resolve, courage, and focus. Embrace this potent mix of boldness and introspection as you navigate a week of breakthroughs and transformative resolve. Apologize for that typo. That's the I-Ching, got truncated off, but whatever. All right, so that's the big energy that you should expect, but that doesn't mean that you go out and just pummel the world, right? So let's get back to our solution. Oh, it jumped again. So we start with our I-Ching because we put the change lines in and we get 14, affluence. Now we're looking for solutions because the solution is behaviors and actions. Consider this. You do have your free will, of course. You can do anything you want, but these are just suggestions based on the technologies that we're using. So 14 suggests act with gratitude and responsibility for the abundance in your life. Use your resources, whether material, emotional, or spiritual, with care and integrity. Share your success generously, ensuring that others benefit from your good fortune. Lead with humility and avoid arrogance or misuse of power. That statement goes directly to our rave reading. Stay aligned with your higher values. All that is correlated, and so here's our conversion. We take our biggest energy for this week. It's the full moon in Aries, tropical Aries, at 14 degrees 8 minutes. And that puts us in our conversion, this full moon. If you go out into the sky at night and look, it's going to be in Pisces, sidereal Pisces. And we also want to convert and see what in the human design rave mandala gets ignited by this full moon. And we're going to look at that first, but it's gate 21. So let's go there now. Gate 21 is called biting through. The justified and necessary use of power in overcoming deliberate and persistent interference. This is a perfect match to our affluence, and we're going to focus in on the power mechanism. The goal of Gate 21 is to exercise control and authority through balanced, disciplined action against obstacles that impede progress. So perfect that when we can now use the overall energies was exactly this: the urge to break through, the courage to push forward, the yang with self-confidence. So according to this, we do need to use this sum for power. Now let's get into more details. The moon is at 14 degrees 8 minutes, right? So we have objectivity. Line 5, the use of force must be based on impartiality and not emotionally motivated. Cool. There's a lot of water in this confidence expansive energy. So there is going to be a lot of emotions, but right off the bat, we should not use emotional motivation. It's allowed to be there, but it shouldn't be allowed to impulsively direct your action. Let's talk about the increment is ruled by Jupiter, a principled and legal character that ensures objectivity, the balanced ego whose willpower is applied objectively. That could be tough when we have a high amount of emotional expansiveness this week with the trines, Jupiter and Cancer and the Saturn and Pisces and so on, and the expanding moon, lunar energy. Lots of emotions this week. So, in order to carry out properly this rave mandala, we need to somehow resolve that emotional component so that it doesn't feed into our decision making for action. Okay, on the downside, it's ruled by Pluto. The drive for elimination is so powerful that objectivity is related purely to cause and not effect. The ego, whose willpower is applied subjectively. Whew, this is a tough one because there is a component in this line that allows us to eliminate the need to look at the effect of our actions and purely base our decision off of the cause, the why. Why are we doing this thing? And it's an elimination. It's a destruction only type of event. Let me describe this a little bit more. Well, let's just go straight to how to balance this line because that'll illuminate it more. Okay, so the increment is ruled by Jupiter, should be invoked when fairness and expansion of justice are needed. Jupiter's energy represents abundance, growth, and ethical expansion, wisdom, perfectly aligned with the principled application of power. Jupiter brings a benevolent quality to authority, ensuring that power is used to uplift rather than simply control. Okay, that's the overview. Let's go to Pluto. The decrement ruled by Pluto should be invoked when transformation through elimination is necessary. Pluto embodies the energy of profound transformation through destruction and rebirth. This planetary influence, the full moon, makes sense for the decrement as it governs the drive to eliminate obstacles completely, focusing intently on the cause that justifies action rather than considering all the consequences. Whew, that's a tough one, especially if you've gotten used to always making decisions knowing what the effect will be. But even if you know the effect in this case, like destruction, does not mean that you have to not do it. It means you ignore the effect. All right, so how do we meld this properly? Before making decisions, consciously check for emotional triggers that might be clouding your judgment. Okay? Practice delayed gratification is another one. Delayed gratification is a therapeutic technique to be able to have an emotion or an urge and yet not do it. Or another better example is have an urge to maybe grab a cigarette. Delayed gratification says, I'm going, the longer I wait, the more my urge gets. So I really want that cigarette now. Delayed gratification says it's okay. It's okay to have that craving, but I'm still going to not satisfy it so fast. I'm just going to wait. And that's the whole point of delayed gratification. If we translate into just general behaviors, in all the behaviors, we can take a pregnant pause and check for any urge there. We want to do our action without urges. And that's the more general, broad, that covers all the other considerations. Like if there's an emotion present, a big emotion, and you're fused together, so you have emotion here and action behavior here, if those are fused, then anger becomes slam the door. They're one and the same. But if we can see that they're two different things, to have anger and decide to slam the door, that's defused. Because when we have it defused, then I can see the emotion for what it is. It's not an action. And then I can decide whether to slam the door or not. When we have an urge there, that might be more imminent, more impulsive to just slam the door. Okay, so practice delayed gratification across the board. Yes, it's okay to want something now. Why am I wanting it? Why do I feel like I need to? Is there an emotion present? So emotional awareness is another practical thing that you could invoke. Document the reasoning behind difficult decisions to ensure they're based on your principles, your ethical codes, your morals, your values, and the life you're wanting to make. Next, practice compassionate detachment, being aware of emotions without being ruled by them. That's the defusion. Regularly reflect on the balance between necessary force and excessive control. Okay, why is all this important? Well, the full moon unlocks this gate and line of the rave, so it's worth our study for it because it unlocks. The cardinal fire energy amplifies the willpower aspects of this gate, potentially making people more willing to confront obstacles directly. This transit challenges humanity to balance Jupiter's expansive justice with Pluto's transformative elimination. So we could manifest, this line could manifest in our world as heightened awareness of injustice and stronger willingness to address it. Leaders being called to account for biased decision-making, collective movements demanding objective application of rules and laws. There's a potential for reactionary responses that need to be tempered with objectivity, and a societal examination of where power is being applied subjectively rather than fairly. So I think falls right in line with what we're seeing in the latest news right now. All right, so let's get to our finale. And we've talked about all these. We're looking for behaviors recommended and triangulated from the I-Ching 14, the Rave Mandala reading that we just went over, Sidereal Pisces, and the full moon, lunar stage. Number one, start by centering within yourself and find the powerful calm very deep within. There's another power that is sort of like derived from the chaotic emotion that tends to motivate. Some of those emotions motivate, like anger, for example. It is a very motivational, expansive energy. To sit still with that is very difficult. And so what we're trying to do is to go into the eye of the storm when there's an emotion present or no emotion present. It doesn't have to have an emotion there to do this. But just go within and find the power that is inside of the chaotic mind, the chaotic emotions, and go into the center. And you'll have to sit there long enough to get past the mental chatter. That's the self-talk, the constant self-talk. If you're one that mind chatters a lot, you might be waiting quite a long time, roughly, I don't know, it depends, 20 minutes, 30 minutes of just sitting there, centering within yourself, finding the power within that doesn't have chatter, mental, it doesn't have chaotic emotions. It's inside of that, not away from it. Don't try to get rid of chaotic emotions. Go to the center. It's a intuitive, mindful state and will be infinitely expansive once you tune into that, and calm. And then number two, attune your inner experience to the full illumination of the moon, helping you to maximize the feelings of affluence, confidence, full personal power, full conscientious intention. That is your power to be able to choose. This week is about fluidly. This is Pisces, Sidereal Pisces. This week is about fluidly and spiritually staying in this centered state so that all your decisions and choices are sound, impartial, and not emotionally motivated. I mean, I don't know if I worded that absolutely the way I wanted to. They can be derived from emotions, but we don't want them to be fused. We don't want to be pulled directly from the emotion itself. But you can learn from the emotion, right? And if you have the defused state, you can take action off the table momentarily to look at and see, what is this emotion doing for me? Why is it there? Where did it come from? What needs do I have because of this emotion? Watch closely to avoid impulsive reactions. Feel the inner power, but slow it down and objectively know why you're choosing to do something and its effect. Socially, this week is a little more social. Just it looks like it is. Affluence doesn't necessarily have to be social, but it is, because it wants to be responsible, but nobility and generosity is in there. 2 could go either way. Full moon generally is more extroverted in its energy, and Pisces could go literally either way. It needs both. It's a oneness energy, and it's very hell-bent on connectedness. However, it's well known that Pisces needs their introspective time, or need go journey into dreams and mysticism and spirituality. So, and you can do that socially as well, but you know the difference. It could go either way. Okay, what did I miss? Put your questions down below. Make any corrections that you need to. I've got thick skin, and I appreciate all your comments and your subscribing and sharing. And God bless our tribe, right? So appreciate all of you. Have a great week. Have a great full moon. This is going to be wonderful energy if you just follow the playbook. All right. We'll see you on Wednesday for a live show. I don't know yet when that'll be. In the morning sometime. Take care, everybody. Namaste.